What's going on, DGN family?
How are you all doing? Welcome early, gang, to another day of daily gaming news on today, September 9th.
Yes. And for daily gaming news, just for those who maybe never checked us out before, I am Marrone.
I am Kaisa. We are your co-hosts today, and we are super excited to also record our audition for G4 live on our stream.
Because there was a little bit of a notification about the fact that G4 is looking for some people, and Kaisa and I were doing some chatting, and we were like, you know what? We're already doing the thing. Hey, G4, maybe if you're interested, DGN can bring a presence to G4 TV.
Right, we're good hosts. We know what we're talking about. We follow gaming news. There aren't a lot of hosts or a lot of creators that are, doing something like this every single day. So we thought it would be, worthwhile to also record a video of us just, doing our thing, introducing ourselves, explaining kind of what we do as our pitch. Because I've seen some other audition videos and it's just like people trying to be like memers or content creators, which is totally fine, but we are good at the news and we'd like to pitch ourselves as the news.
Exactly. So G4 TV, DGN has heard that you guys are looking for some new faces and talent, possibly to help represent the network. And I can't speak on Kai's behalf, but one thing that I can say is, as the other half of DGN, we've been working really hard to instill our passion into every day that we come in and the news articles that we find and the things that we cover. And love talking about everything from the next-gen consoles to Cyberpunk 2077, which I think maybe every episode we've done has featured some Cyberpunk 2077 talk. But yeah, I mean, we're doing the thing. We do this on our own, as is. Come in an hour every day, Monday through Friday, and deliver what's going on in the gaming industry to the amazing human beings that come in and check out everything here on Daily Gaming News.
We've also got different segments that we cover. So on Monday, we have an esports roundup where we go over the latest and hottest esports news that happened over the weekend. On Thursdays, we talk about On This Day in Gaming and we highlight, whatever game is having their anniversary. And we also have a mailbag segment where we answer questions from viewers. We are super excited about the next-gen console release, which we talk about a ton. And we would really love to be considered to be hosts for G4.
Absolutely. And also, we're getting interviews on our own, like this Friday, as we tweeted and talked about. On September 11th, we are going to be bringing on Micah Jones, who is the head of Team Kill Media for the next-gen title Quantum Error that we have watched some videos on, and that has been pretty exciting. He's coming on. We've interviewed a good friend of ours, Drew, with, Adiana is how you say it,
Adiana,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So we're going to be getting more interviews on our own. Might as well come in and put that G4 name on it so we can get even more.
And on our off time, I like to stream a lot on Twitch. I do a lot of chatting. I recently played BioShock, and I play a lot of League of Legends.
And I also am a hardcore Call of Duty Warzone player. I love all different types of competitive games. It's my nature. Being an athlete for 10 years was definitely something that drove me to not be able to put it down. Sometimes I just have that drive too much to a fault.
And we are former Caffeine TV gaming news show hosts where we had a 1-hour segment of gaming news every single day. We did over 50 shows, and that was, a highly produced segment. We were filming from Fox Studios, broadcasting live from Fox Studios for a little bit pre-pandemic, and would be super excited to get back into a studio to do our thing.
Absolutely. So for your consideration of new faces and talent over there at G4 TV, DGN is here. And that one half of DGN that I represent is Marrone.
And I am Kaisa.
So let's talk about today's topics as a brief overview, which is going to be fun and exciting. Is today they did announce the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War multiplayer.
And we're also going to be talking about the Xbox Series S versus the Xbox Series X, because I'm sure you've seen a ton of buzz about pricing and about the differences between those two consoles.
The continuation of the drama between Apple and Epic Games.
Cyberpunk 2077, news about microtransactions for multiplayer and next-gen pricing.
Did you just say Cyberpunk 2077 multiplayer?
Multiplayer, I did say multiplayer and microtransactions, but everyone put a pin in it. Don't get too worked up. We'll explain.
Yeah, and then also PUBG has officially cut ties with Tencent in India after ban.
And if we have time, we're going to get into the new Hyrule Warriors prequel to Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was announced.
And of course, as always, those of you in the chat and the DGN fam, what's in the mug?
I won't give any hints today. I think you can figure it out.
Yeah,
I believe in chat.
I'm in the same boat as well. The only hint I will say is I had very limited options today.
All right, let's get right into it. As Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War had a multiplayer reveal that was just earlier today and is still going on.
Yes, it is still going on. People are showing off that multiplayer. So what we did see was the reveal for the first official footage for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War's multiplayer. It did give fans some hints of what they'll see and be playing when the game comes out, which is on November 13th.
The Black Ops sequel's multiplayer should look familiar to anyone who's played Call of Duty in the last few years, but changes like a revamped create a class system, faster gameplay, and an entirely revamped score streak system should help Black Ops Cold War stand out from its predecessors. Along with these more specific changes, there are also new maps, weapons, perks, and game modes that players expect from each new Call of Duty game.
Black Ops Cold War will also be the first Call of Duty to arrive on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and it's bringing Warzone with it. Because it's coming to both next-gen and current-gen consoles, Black Ops Cold War will also build on the crossplay that Modern Warfare and Warzone has introduced, allowing players of all consoles and generations to join matches together.
According to Treyarch, the game's multiplayer is set a few years after the campaign, which means it's definitely set in the Cold War era. The Cold War setting extends to everything from the deniable operations to the CIA-themed in-match chatter to the glaring neon lights of South Beach in the 80s.
Even the score streaks this time around are Cold War themed, with spy planes, napalm strikes, and chopper gunners replacing some of the modern options of the previous games like drone strikes and AC-130s.
Warzone will share progress with Black Ops Cold War's multiplayer thanks to what Treyarch calls cross-progression. This means that you'll have the same rank in Warzone and Black Ops Cold War multiplayer, and that you can use most items you unlock in either mode, similar to how Warzone interacts with Modern Warfare.
So as for your existing Warzone progress, all that will carry over as well. It is a little unclear as to whether or not players with Warzone levels will reset when the Black Ops Cold War update arrives, but what we do know that all the unlocks and weapons that you have earned from the first several seasons of Warzone will still be available to you after the update.
There is at least one new game mode coming to Black Ops Cold War, and it turned out to be one of the highlights of the multiplayer reveal. This is called VIP Escort, and it tasks teams with either defending a VIP on their way to the extraction point or preventing said extraction.
Later, Dragos. So kill streaks might be one of the biggest changes coming to the latest Call of Duty. Treyarch has changed kill streaks into score streaks for Black Ops Cold War, and these streaks aren't lost when you die, but the requirements are higher, and you earn a multiplier for kills earned in one life, so you are still rewarded for staying alive. This system doesn't feel radically different in modes like Team Deathmatch, but once you get into the more objective-based modes, it does become a little bit more noticeable.
With the old system where streaks reset each time you died, players were often forced to choose between putting themselves at risk by playing an objective and playing it safe to protect their kill streak. However, with the new system, players can rack up progress and multipliers by completing objectives without worrying that it would all be erased by a well-thrown grenade on the hardpoint.
Now, there is also going to be a beta set for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and we don't know much about it yet. Activision has let players know that they can get access to the beta by watching Call of Duty League streams, but the Call of Duty website also says that an open beta is on the way in the near future. Also, according to the multiplayer trailer, PlayStation 4 players will get access to the game's open beta early, running from October 8th to 9th. The PS4's open beta will run from the 10th to 12th, and then a week later, Black Ops Cold War will have a cross-play beta, which will be available in early access on Xbox One and PC, and open on PS4 on October 15th and 16th, and open for all platforms from October 17th to 19th.
Also, what we covered isn't a comprehensive, total look at everything we know about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. If we did include it in the show, it would probably take a good 30 minutes to get into the minutia of, which specific weapons are being added, what maps are going to be different. And there's so many little details that I encourage you, to go check out if you're really interested. There is a lot of information out there.
There really is. Some of it that can kind of do like a little brief description on that stood out that I thought was a really cool was they're bringing the gunsmith feature over into Black Ops Cold War, but it's actually going to be more in depth of a feature than they have now in Modern Warfare, which I think is great. They were talking that there are going to even be perks where instead of only being able to do 5 attachments, you can do 8 attachments on your gun, which is like, oh, wow. I mean, I could just be purely focused on firefights alone. And that was something that I thought was like a really cool addition, was like the perks didn't just address in-game, but also out-of-game prep that you could use and decide for how you wanted to pursue, your loadouts. And even down to the point of having like 2 lethal, instead of 1 lethal and like 1 equipment slot, you can actually have like 2 lethals going on at the same time, which is something that I don't remember having access to in the past, and in a feature that could be quite deadly in certain instances.
A lot of buzz on Twitter, particularly about this multiplayer reveal, was especially about the cross-generational, cross-platform play, which I think is huge. A lot of gamers are saying like, hey, we think every multiplayer game should be cross-generational, cross-platform, which, I agree. I know there are certain limitations, or it kind of sucks if that means there's going to be a lot of cheaters in your lobby. If you're playing on PC, a lot of gamers have opted to turn that off. But it is a great move, I think, especially because a lot of people play Warzone as a social thing. Like, a lot of players aren't there to play the game, they're just there to hang out with their friends.
That's a good observation. I'm wondering too, where is the divide? And by the way, happy Wednesday to you, Ray Skywalker. I'm also wondering if the players in Black Ops will be divided from the players in Modern Warfare, title-wise. You'll still be cross-platform, right? And cross-generation, because that just means if you have Black Ops Cold War on PlayStation 4 and you have it on PlayStation 5, you guys will still compete together. But I wonder if the code with regard to the game itself will divide people from it. So if Treyarch's version of the game does come out with an anti-cheat system, whereas Infinity Ward's version of Modern Warfare doesn't, yes, your progress will carry over, but you're not going to play with the Modern Warfare players. You're only going to play with the Black Ops Cold War players. And if that is the case, I think that will be a very good resolution to the prevalence of what people have to deal with in the current multiplayer experience.
I think so too. I really hope so, especially because it seems like a big focus is, streamers playing this game as well. Not, we don't want cheaters in general, but also it reduces the quality of a lot of these streams or a lot of this content, to have cheaters in those lobbies of a big part of your publicity. We've been seeing only streamers marketing this game on this live stream, for the past, 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that, that does get under control, because it's just so much. A lot of people have kind of, rolled over and accepted that there's going to be cheaters in this game, but I don't think they should, and I think people are still getting increasingly frustrated with it.
For sure. It's a prevalence, and if your KD's high enough and your wins are high enough, you're going to experience it, and you have to deal with it, and it just becomes that thing that you're like, man, I know it wouldn't get rid of all of them, but a nice anti-cheat system would get rid of most of this infestation, if you may. And a quick question, because Meg threw up, who are you answering for, Meg? Are you answering for both of us at the same time? You got to throw in whose name and then who's the question for, or who's the guess for with what's in the mug. I was just curious.
I see.
Ray's like water from Marrone. That is one ingredient. Yes, I will say that much. It is a flavored water of what type, I'm sure you can figure out pretty soon.
I wonder how many people will be mad about this PS4 early open beta or earlier than the Xbox and PC one, because it's, another move from PlayStation that we've seen, that there's a lot of these perks for, if you do have a PlayStation, you're going to be able to play games sooner. There are special features like special Marvel skins or, accessories that you can only get for PlayStation. Spider-Man only being on the PlayStation 1. I wonder how many people are going to be upset about this. Or if they're just going to be like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's just more of on big content creators, if they are going to make open beta content, they've got to get a PlayStation for it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Boom, Floral Meg got it with some lemon water from Marrone. That is what is in the mug. Good guess there. Good guess. I'm curious too. I think people have gotten used to, specifically with Call of Duty, that PlayStation 4 does seem like the premier place for Call of Duty to test its game out. It does appear that they have really shifted as that being maybe the go-to device in which it's designed for. It seems like a lot of the pros come from PlayStation 4. I'm actually an OG player on Xbox, and I realized playing with a PlayStation 4 controller, though I was able to do it, the muscle memory wasn't really there, that when I switched over to an Xbox controller and started playing with that controller again, it came back like riding a bike.
Nice.
So I've been switching from controller and mouse and keyboard, but it does appear like most of what they do tend to show off. The PlayStation console is the console they like to focus on.
So our next bit of news is the big news and announcements about the Xbox Series S and how that compares to the Xbox Series X. So we're going to get into what's the difference, what can I expect, which one do I want to buy?
I think this was a very interesting Labor Day weekend, specifically surrounding what was going on with Microsoft and how this news broke. There's they even tweeted a meme, which was great in response to the news breaking. I appreciate their approach to how this came about. So Microsoft's next-gen Xbox strategy seems to be finally coming into focus. The company did recently announce its second next-gen Xbox, the Xbox Series S, has a confirmed price of $299 and a release date of November 10th. This console will be sold alongside the more powerful Xbox Series X, which will cost $499 and launch on the same day. Both consoles will be available to pre-order beginning on September 22nd.
So to get into the differences between these two, there will be no disk drive for the Series S, which is the first and foremost difference, that the Series S is kind of the digital version of the Xbox, next-gen console. Microsoft has experimented with a disc-free console before with the Xbox One S all-digital edition, so this isn't, totally uncharted territory for the company. And it also won't be the only next-gen console with no disc drive, as, Sony has a PS5 digital edition.
And the lack of disk drive might be a very important element to consider for some consumers, as NPD's Matt Piscatella reminded that the ISP broadband coverage and data caps remain a huge challenge in some parts of the States. And with the Xbox Series S only having 512 gigs of solid-state drive, that hard drive might actually fill up very quickly.
Especially if you have Warzone on there, that already takes up
half
200.
the hard drive.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So regarding performance and power, the Xbox Series S doesn't offer nearly as much as the Series X. The Xbox Series S has 4 teraflops compared to 12 teraflops for its beefier cousin. That said, it is no slouch. It is still next gen. It has the same CPU as the more expensive model, and it's capable of 1440p at up to 120 FPS and can deliver 4K upscaling. The Series S also supports DirectX ray tracing, variable rate shading, and variable refresh rate, just like the Xbox Series X does. A Series S video released by Microsoft also revealed that it runs at 3.6 gigahertz.
That for $299? Wow. So even the storage is really interesting, because we look at it as the Xbox Series S does come with the 512 gig solid state drive compared to the 1 terabyte for the Xbox Series X. Now, as many have pointed out, the Series X's storage situation could become an issue, especially when game sizes are growing larger and larger. Yes, as Kaisa was mentioning, we're looking at you, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It is expected that the Xbox Series S will be compatible with external storage solutions like the Series X, so that could help alleviate some of the concerns, even if it does cost a little extra.
So the games for both of these devices, it's expected that the games for the Series S and Series X will be the same. The main difference is that people on the Series X will get better quality graphics and frame rates due to the increased horsepower. But again, the Series S still is a very powerful machine, and might not be top notch, but it's still going to be, great quality.
Yeah, and so when we take a look at the Xbox, one of the things that it is offering is the Xbox All Access. So with the new console generation, Microsoft is actually moving closer to the smartphone business model with its Xbox All Access program. This is actually something we speculated on and we're talking about, that if they started to add features like this, it would probably do very well, because Microsoft has confirmed it will sell an Xbox Series X for $25 a month, and the Xbox Series X for $35 a month under the subscription program.
Go ahead.
Sorry. And I was just going to say to that is, and that is also including Game Pass.
So additionally, Microsoft also announced that the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Game Pass for PC subscribers will soon get an EA Play membership at no additional charge. So this means that if you shell out for a Game Pass Ultimate on PC, your subscription will also include access to more than 60 additional EA games, including big titles like The Sims, Mass Effect, FIFA. This means Ultimate members can enjoy EA Play on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows 10 PCs, and Xbox Game Pass for PC members will get EA Play on Windows 10, Microsoft explains. The addition of EA Play will start this holiday.
So EA Play was formerly known as EA Access before rebranding over the summer. It's a Game Pass service, but it's exclusive for EA titles. And this service just recently launched on Steam.
So that's the big difference between the Series X and the Series S. Just to go over, some of the specs that we want to highlight on this Series S, there's going to be 10 gigs of RAM. On the Series X, you get 16. Again, with storage, you get 512 gigabytes on the Series S and 1 terabyte on the Series X.
Yeah, I was also going to say, too, the performance target is one to take note here, as if for next gen, your focus is really just, I want the storytelling, I want those single player experiences. The Xbox Series S might be the way to go because it's more affordable, as it'll be 1140p at 60 frames per second, up to 120 frames. However, if you want that Xbox Series X where you want to pay a little bit more, you're going to get 4K at 60 frames per second, as well as up to 120 frames for, I think, multiplayer experiences and some of the other titles that they're going to try to upscale and push that.
Also, the Xbox Series X boasts that it can do 8K max output resolution, which is super cool, but I don't have anything that I can even, watch 8K on. So I think the Xbox Series X is going to be, a really powerful console that's going to have good longevity. It's going to be a powerful machine for, I think, a good amount of years to come. But again, if you don't have the $499 to shell out, that is pretty expensive. The Xbox Series S still is a good option. And the Series S comes in white. The Xbox Series X is in black. We haven't heard anything about different colors or special edition models. But I think this was a killer announcement from Microsoft. These are good price points. This was great to hear. They're both powerful machines.
Yeah, Sony, it's now, I think it was expected Sony was going to wait. They've announced that there's some big announcement coming up, the whole we have a plan for a plan. So they've made the announcement there is going to be something happening with regards to Sony. It was probably revolving around, hey, Microsoft's going to announce their pricing soon, and they're going to come out with theirs. I would not be shocked, and this would actually be a great day for most gamers if they come out and say our console too will also have that monthly cost. Because what you could see theoretically is someone grab the Xbox Series S and also grab the PlayStation 5 and have a monthly cost of $50 to play next gen titles and that hardware, and not actually lose out on consumers just because they have to make a decision between one or the other.
That's true. I think going to, the phone business model of subscriptions is pretty smart. I hate subscriptions, but I understand that this is a way to make these devices a lot more affordable to some people. They probably can't commit to, $500 up front, but like $25, $35 a month, that's something they can do. I think that's going to have a lot of people sign up for this. I don't know if the PS4 is going to be that competitive price-wise. And as you said, if they don't offer, some payment plan, I think they're going to lose out on some people.
Yeah, and already knowing that they are leading in with a loss on their consoles like they did with the PlayStation 4 and also they did with the PlayStation 3. This is a trend that I think Sony is aware of. We do this because we gain more people on the subscription services. I hope they're already reevaluating what may have been, hey, it's going to be this price point and this price point only, and doing kind of like what Xbox did when they first announced for the Xbox One. They announced a price point that people were like, no way. And then that price point shifted in a matter of weeks. So I hope Sony comes out ahead of that and doesn't make that mistake. Because this is a really strong outing for Microsoft with the next gen reveal.
And I really like that they actually pushed this reveal up a week early. Phil Spencer tweeted earlier today. He was like, it's been super hectic. This was supposed to be announced next week, but we decided to push it to today. That was probably related to, some leaks that we've heard. We've seen a lot of...
An unintentional official Microsoft confirmation leak.
terrible, just absolutely terrible. I feel like now that the prices have been announced, I've kind of forgiven Microsoft a little bit for, you know, how much the marketing for this console has been a bit botched. Now I'm just kind of like happy. I'm like, okay, yeah, we've got the price now. Cool, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. We know the release, we know the price, we pretty much know the games. And yeah, I would actually say in terms of console war, if you want to say that that's there, and of course businesses are competing for consumers, Microsoft has presented a strong case for considering them, especially as being as affordable as $25 a month to experience next-gen gaming. You're talking the ray tracing, you're talking the faster load times. That's pretty significant for those who are out there going, will I be able to afford this for my kid who wants it? Will I be able to afford this for myself? You're like, hey, can I do $25 a month? I can, and that will allow me to have this amazing experience at home.
And I think that there's going to be more demand for those subscriptions as games are becoming $70 now. That's a lot of money, and, you know, why not just get a subscription? You can play, you know, all these games on the Games Pass versus purchasing these titles that maybe once you finish your playthrough, you're not going to play them again anyway, so what's the point in having ownership of all these games? Meg says, I would like Sony to update their game streaming service, just up the games available on there. I don't hear much buzz about PlayStation's game streaming service. I think the only thing I really heard from it was that Fall Guys was really popular.
Yeah, there's actually been a few things swirling around PlayStation that I wanted to throw in, but I was like, you know what, I don't want to talk about
What
it.
Is it?
It's overhyped. There's a potential. Supposedly, there has been a patent that has been discovered that is talking about a new PSP for PlayStation. This has been something that's been wanted for a long time. There was some discovery of acknowledging PSP again for specifically compatibility with the PlayStation 5. What that means, we'll see. And to Maximus's question is, yeah, actually, Sony has announced that 2 console generations now, they've lost like $20 per console sale because they sell it at a less price than what it is actually worth. But they're okay doing that because they make it up in like a couple of years on subscriptions like the PlayStation Plus and the people who come in and do like PS Now and stuff like that. So yeah, do the subscriptions have a 6-month commitment or something? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're locked into the deal like you would with a phone, that when you sign the dotted line, if you try to break it, you either have to pay an upfront cost. I haven't seen any fine print and details to that, but I would expect it'll mirror what you have with your smartphone.
So again, the release date for the Xbox Series S and X is going to be November 10th, which is now coming up soon. November seemed really far away, but now that it's September, I'm like, it feels like, you know, it's going to be right around the corner soon. And, you know, you can get your pre-orders in starting September 22nd.
Yeah, but you know what is not right around the corner? Resolution between Apple and Epic Games, because now Apple has countersued Epic Games for breach of contract.
Apple Inc. countersued Epic Games on Tuesday, claiming the maker of Fortnite breached a contract when it introduced a new in-app payment system within the popular video game. This is a story that has been unfolding over the past few weeks that we have, you know, been keeping track of, been following, been updating you about, and so now we have this new information that Apple is countersuing.
So, the iPhone maker asked U.S. District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers for punitive damages and to block Epic from continuing what it calls unfair business practices in the escalating skirmish between the two companies. So late Friday, Epic sought an injunction to force Apple out to put Fortnite back on the Apple Store, disclosing that roughly a third of Fortnite players' access is actually through the Apple Store.
Although Epic portrays itself as a modern corporate Robin Hood, Apple said in a filing Tuesday, in reality it is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that simply wants to pay nothing for the tremendous value it derives from the App Store.
So an Apple spokesman declined further comment, but pointed to a company statement on the Epic case called, quote-unquote, Free Fortnite. Epic was not immediately available to comment on this, and Apple's shares did plunge nearly 7% in trading Tuesday, in another rough day for those tech stocks.
The latest legal jousting comes nearly a month after Epic introduced the payment system within Fortnite to sidestep the 30% fee that, that Apple and the Google Play Store charge for in-app purchases. Epic's gambit prompted both companies to boot the game from their app marketplaces. Epic eventually sued Apple and Google in federal court in Northern California, accusing the computing giants of anti-competitive conduct.
So this has actually brought people to Epic's side, standing against Apple, as they have gotten support from Microsoft, Spotify, and others who are speaking on their behalf, claiming that Apple is actually the one in the wrong here.
The Apple Epic case has set evolving battle lines on market definition, according to antitrust attorney Paul Swanson. He said that market and product definition may end up being the central battleground in this case. Does Apple have to open up the app purchasing and in-app purchasing space to competitors, or are those intrinsic parts of Apple's products that it can rightfully control?
This was a comment you made that I'm going to reference that I'm not going to be perfect, but you made the comment on, like, if somebody owns the land and builds the facility and then tries to decide everything else that, you know, takes place on in there and tries to profit off of all aspects of that, most of us would go, no, that's too much. That's monopolistic in its choices and practices, and to get in the way of someone who's saying, no, that cost shouldn't come out of the cost for my service that you're allowing me to come here and house and, you know, do this. This is that situation here, you know? This is where you're like, Apple says, well, it's our platform, it's our service, not is it going to be the cost out of our pocket to house it. It's going to be the cost out of your pocket, you the consumer, when you pay for something from Fortnite, where they're taking 30% out of what you're paying for that thing that is supposed to go towards Epic Games, who you are supporting. And they're saying, well, we get to make this claim because we are the ones offering the service.
Right, and this battle seems to get increasingly nasty. I thought that comment saying, like, oh, well, Epic thinks they're a modern Robin Hood now, and, you know, we saw that Apple threatened to take off, you know, all apps that were on Unreal Engine because Epic Games owns Unreal Engine. You know, that seemed unfair, too. It seems like they're kind of not pulling at straws. I think these are, you know, like, legitimate, you know, complaints and criticisms, but it does feel like, you know, this is a typical legal battle in that it gets, you know, it can get really messy really fast. Also, this has been, you know, in the news as well. It's covered, you know, gaming news is in the mainstream for a terrible reason, you know, being covered by CNBC, people talking about the Apple stock, you know, the Epic stock. This is not a great way for gaming to become more mainstream, but here we are. Yeah,
Apple's not doing well. And when you look at the numbers, that is. And part of that reason is because I think they have presented themselves in the position of greed. And that's the part here where we've talked about this a lot, especially when it comes to, you know, the video game industry. And we're about to talk about this next story with regard to microtransactions, is that if you do have this greedy approach, people don't want anything to do with you. They start to back away. They go, I'll take myself elsewhere, because all you clearly want is to tip me upside down and shake me out until all the coins and cash falls out of my pockets.
I wonder if, you know, the stock prices are being affected by this battle. I wonder if it's going to have any long-term effects. I mean, these companies are so huge that they can afford to pick these fights. I wonder if, you know, there's going to be a change of sentiment, because people do see corporations, even though they're just corporate entities, people do kind of have a story, or, you know, have certain feelings that they attach to those. Like, do they trust Epic? Do they trust Apple? You know, do they want to use the App Store or Google Play Store? How do they feel about this? And even though consumers right now don't seem to have a lot of control, if you want to play Fortnite on an iPhone, you know, I don't know if you can even still download the game right now, or if you know, you must have obtained it before, but a lot of consumers are getting hurt in the process. And, you know, it's just so unfortunate to see. I don't think this battle is going to be over anytime soon.
No, we're going to be standing by watching this drag on and continue. I also want to say is, I think when Apple threatened the pulling of the Unreal Engine software, that also set out a really bad ripple effect to their public reception.
Yes.
That you would go that far in your displeasure with Epic Games that you would be jeopardizing the livelihoods of hundreds, if not thousands, of developers who have nothing to do with this situation. I think that set a a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
I love Sequasi's comment, and the victory royale belongs to the law firms. I would hate to see, I could already see the memes happening of people being like, oh, free Fortnite, like Fortnite versus Apple, like victory royale. We got that dub, gamers. We won this lawsuit. It's totally going to be a thing. Yeah, this is going to be the news for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes through until next year. Maybe they're going to settle on something, but it seems like Epic really has something to gain here because they are really positioning themselves as like the Robin Hood or the underdog, the person fighting for
We're
your
on the side
rights.
of the people.
Yes, yeah. Epic is fighting on the side of the people, and if this is a PR move from Epic as well, it seems to be working.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's smart, and we should take it for face value until we have any other reason to believe it's not. There's some nefarious intent going on here. I would just simply say it does appear to be that Epic is saying, no, this is unfair to all of us, and unfair to us, which that ultimately, some people would say like, oh, you're just saying that, so you yourself come out the victor. But I don't know. There's something to recognize here where the fight does appear to be drawing up the voices from other places that are saying, yeah, like we mentioned before, like we don't agree with this approach that Apple has laid down with how it's handling its in-app purchases and its cut 30%. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount if we really break it down.
It's such a bad look, and especially I feel like it's making a lot of people, especially me, take a look at the App Store in general. We're talking about spammy ads on a lot of these apps that are on there, and now there's a lot of talk about spyware apps and people being concerned about TikTok and like do they even trust apps from the App Store, and do they think that Apple deserves this 30% cut from this? I think is going to be in a lot of people's minds, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with just the 30% cut factor and what the legal case is necessarily about.
Yep. And so as always, we will be keeping our eye on this ever continuing battle between these two powerhouses. But our next story is great because, of course, we're going to be talking about some Cyberpunk 2077 when news like this drops.
So, Cyberpunk 2077 developer says multiplayer microtransactions won't be aggressive, but what was most exciting for us is that Cyberpunk 2077 multiplayer has more news.
So, it's going to include multiplayer, but that component of the game won't be released until sometime after the debut of the single-player game. When Cyberpunk multiplayer does arrive, it will have some form of microtransaction system. And now developer CD Projekt Red has shared some additional insight on its approach to them, but we don't need to worry. The developer has reiterated once again that the single-player game will not have any microtransactions at all.
So again, there will be some microtransactions for multiplayer. Multiplayer is not slated to come out for at least a year. For the campaign, there are no microtransactions. CD Projekt Red president and joint CEO Adam Kaczynski said in an earnings report that the developer is looking for ways to get people to spend money and be happy about it in multiplayer. He said, well, we're never aggressive towards our fans. We treat them fairly and we're friendly, so of course not. We won't be aggressive. But you can expect great things to be bought. The goal is to design monetization in a way that makes people happy to spend money. I'm not trying to be cynical or hide something, he said. It's about creating a feeling of value.
Amen to that. So Kaczynski's comments match up with what executives from other giant companies like EA and Take-Two and Activision have said about their approach to microtransactions, that they want to create a transaction where the consumer feels they're getting a value for their money.
Kaczynski added, same as with our single-player games, we want gamers to be happy while spending money on our products. The same is true for microtransactions. You can expect them, of course, and Cyberpunk 2077 is a great setting for selling things, but it won't be aggressive, it won't upset gamers, but it'll make them happy. That's our goal, at least.
Thank you so much for the $50 donation, Kai. Thank
oh my
you
gosh,
so
you.
much. Seriously, we really appreciate that. Long distance high five to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Cyberpunk 2077's multiplayer has yet to be formally announced, and it is too soon to say or guess at what its microtransactions might look like. Now, in addition to these microtransactions for multiplayer, Cyberpunk's 2077 single-player game will have free DLC and paid expansions, just like The Witcher 3.
Kaczynski said, "You can expect more, actually. We're not going into many details today, but everything will be clear before release. As we are close to the release, expect the post-release plans to be revealed fairly soon. A series of free DLCs and expansions will be described. As I said Kaczynski, you can expect it fairly soon, and then everything will be made clear." He does seem to like repeating himself.
It does, yes, yeah. And I think that's necessary with this because the multiplayer spinoff is not going to come out anytime soon. The last we heard, CD Projekt Red said we should expect it to release in 2022 at the soonest.
In other CD Projekt Red news, the developer has confirmed that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in 2021. These versions of the game will be available as a free upgrade for existing owners, and Rockstar is making Cyberpunk 2077 branded energy drinks as well.
I think this is awesome about the multiplayer. I am so hyped about this. 2022 is a long way away, but I think there's so much here with the single player that someone like myself, who I'm super excited to jump into this game, I think there's going to be a lot of gameplay and hours put into Cyberpunk that I'll get to 2022 and be like, okay, I'm ready for multiplayer now. I think it'll take that long before I'm like, give me multiplayer, you know?
I think so too, especially if I take my time with it. If we have time, we're going to get into some Breath of the Wild news later, but I'm still playing Breath of the Wild. I could probably finish the game quickly, but I with open world games, do all the side quests that I can. I get really bad FOMO. I've got to do all the things, see all the sights, and I could see that as well, as you said, for Cyberpunk 2077, that this is going to be a game that I don't think I'm just going to zip through, or if I do, there's going to be a second round where I, try to nitpick and discover everything that's available there. I really like this mentality of how they're approaching microtransactions, because oftentimes people want to spend money. People are like, this is a cool game, I want to buy a cool thing, I want to give someone, a gift in Cyberpunk, and I think that it should come from a place of, offering something of value to the consumer, not making them feel like they're getting scammed, not adding kind of like a loot box mechanic at all, and just, offering, real value for their money.
Yeah, I'm now in the place of like, I'm super excited for single player, and I want to dive into that, learn everything that I can about Night City, see which character path that I enjoy most, but what is the multiplayer experience going to be like? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's racking around in my head. Is this going to be where I'm in a lobby with 16 other players and we're all moving around Night City together? Or is this going to be, me and 3 friends? I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm so hyped about the fact that you're going to have this experience with some other player at some point, and to how far that goes. What is that? My brain is still just kind of like, can we know just a little bit more? I mean, just a little bit more.
I would be really curious as to what kind of game multiplayer is going to be, because I know there's a lot of shooting that happens in, Cyberpunk 2077, but I personally am a little fatigued with shooters, and I'd want something a little different, or if they do have a shooter, I want some special Cyberpunk 2077 only element, that's going to really make it different from all the other games. I trust that it is going to be fantastic. But again, we're probably not going to hear a lot about it, at least until Cyberpunk single-player campaign launches.
Yes, and more Cyberpunk news does join this multiplayer microtransaction news, as the next-gen pricing is actually going to stay the same as current-gen pricing.
In a recent Q&A session with CD Projekt Red President Adam Kaczynski and VP of Business Development Michael Nowakowski, the two executives answered some questions asked by the investors regarding upcoming video game Cyberpunk 2077.
An investor openly asked straight up about the pricing of upcoming games' next-gen versions, specifically the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. And this was brought up because EA and other publishers have already started endorsing the prices for their next-gen games at 70 USD or euro.
Nowakowski revealed that in terms of euro, they will follow the $69.99 pricing, since it has been that way for the current generation Xbox One. In terms of USD, they will launch the game at 60 USD only and will keep that price for the consumers. There is no way that they will change it at the last minute to 70 USD, they said. So to clarify, that's $59.99 for USD, $69.99 for euro.
So gamers can rest assured that they will get the full content of Cyberpunk 2077 and still have the same pricing for current and next-gen versions. Hopefully, other publishers will follow suit with CD Projekt Red's example.
In related news, it was recently revealed that the game will not be delayed any longer, and it promises to stay that way. Cyberpunk 2077 will launch on November 19th for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions will be available once the next-gen consoles get released this coming holiday season 2020.
And I think it's a little interesting that now that we know that the Xbox Series S and X drop on November 10th, and this game comes out on the 19th, that maybe 9 days later, we're going to actually see Cyberpunk 2077 shipping with the Xbox Series S and X.
We might. I could definitely see that, have that be a package. This is a game that so many people want to play. I think this is the most hyped game of the entire year. I am really glad that they're not going to raise this pricing for next gen, especially since Cyberpunk is on that cusp of, technically it's a current gen title, but a lot of people, will be playing it on next gen. And the trend of games just getting more and more expensive, I think is going to, spill over to a lot of titles. But again, Cyberpunk is doing a great job of making us feel like we're not being, squeezed for our money.
Yeah, I think CD Projekt Red has set that tone for a long time now. And something, I would have to pull it back up, but we talked about how they've earned so much money with their approach to how they handle, their business. Mm-hmm. And the fact that other major publishers don't follow this example is really interesting, because I think the one thing that CD Projekt Red has always done is said, yeah, we're here to give you the experience that you deserve as the player and that you've learned and known to love over the years of being a gamer. That if we feel like we're going to offer something extra, we want you to actually feel like it has value if you need to pay for it in order to access it, or it's just free because there's no point in charging you for it.
Right, and I think that a lot of this, these good feelings towards CD Projekt Red extend towards word-of-mouth marketing, especially with The Witcher 3. When The Witcher TV show came out, it, added a lot of buzz, but people were saying, like, hey, play The Witcher 3 if you haven't. You've got to play The Witcher 3. So many people have told me I need to play it. It's a highly recommended game years and years after it came out, and I think that's what they're looking to capture as well, is they want people to be passionate about this game, and in doing so, that's free marketing because they're going to tell all their friends, to play it as well. I think CD Projekt Red is a great example of just creating a good product, and it's kind of like, if we build it, they will come, because they've already established that with The Witcher 3.
Yeah, I think that's one way I described it when I played The Witcher 2 and I was jumping over to play The Witcher 3 to someone, was I was describing how CD Projekt Red handles themselves, and I used I remember using that reference, like, hey, if you build it, they will come. It's true. Like, I think we're living in a time period now, especially with most economies struggling, is that you kind of want to go to the place where it doesn't feel like, oh, I got to shell out, money every month in order to maintain the standard experience for this game. Whereas you can go and play The Witcher 3 and you get all those DLCs for an amazing cost. They constantly run deals. And then the things that they do add, like upgrades to Geralt, I can imagine that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to have that same thing where you're like, man, I want that really cool, awesome jacket. I hope I don't have to pay for it. You're not. They're just going to give it to you, and it's going to be something you have access. Maybe you have to do some challenges to unlock it. Maybe there's some sort of journey to get the thing that it is that you want, but it's not going to come tied to your bank account.
Right, and I think that's especially important, during these uncertain times, as every podcast says, where a lot of people are turning to games for, as a means of escape. And if you're, trying to escape from your day-to-day for, for an hour or two, for a few hours, for I don't know how long you play, maybe you're playing Cyberpunk like 20 hours a day, but you don't want to be enjoying yourself and then having to come across microtransactions. I think that can ruin the experience. This seems really cool, with how they're approaching it. I'm very happy with their announcements so far, with their Night City Wire videos and live streams that they've been putting out. This seems like it's been a slam dunk of a marketing campaign, and I am really excited to see what the sales numbers are going to be at launch.
Same here, because let's just put it into perspective. It is 2 months and 1 day from the next gen consoles coming out, for at least the Xbox Series S and X, and it is 2 months and 10 days from when Cyberpunk drops. So it is very close to getting this experience, everybody. So start to get hyped, because I know I'm counting down the days.
The hype train starts now. I feel like this is the countdown to Christmas, but it's countdown to Cyberpunk. We need like an advent calendar for next gen.
It becomes a holiday. We need a Night City holiday for the debut of Cyberpunk 2077.
For real. We're gonna get into our next story, which is kind of bummer news. So hopefully we can close out with a good topic. But PUBG has cut ties with Tencent in India after a ban, and that is a typo I'm gonna fix. It did not cute ties with them.
Yeah, no. So the maker of the hit video game PUBG has cut ties with Tencent in India after Delhi banned apps with links to China. PUBG Mobile was one of 118 Chinese apps that the Indian government blacklisted over national security concerns.
Developer PUBG Corporation said it would take on publishing responsibilities in India in a bid to have its game reinstated. It's not clear if that will be enough to reverse the ban.
Thank you so much for the dono, Kix. Thank
you
so
much.
Thank you. So they did say this: in light of recent developments, PUBG Corporation has made the decision to no longer authorize the PUBG Mobile franchise to Tencent games in India. And that was said in the developer's statement. Tencent has confirmed its partnerships with PUBG Corporation in other markets would not be affected by the move.
India was PUBG's biggest market before the game was blacklisted, with more than 175 million downloads to date, and accounted for about a quarter of the game's downloads globally.
So India's IT ministry claimed last week that its decision to ban the apps was based on credible information that they were acting against the country's interests.
It said it had received many complaints from various sources, including several reports about misuse of some mobile apps available on Android and iOS platforms for stealing and surreptitiously transmitting users' data in an unauthorized manner to servers which have locations outside India.
Went on to say that the compilation of this data, its mining and profiling by elements hostile to national security and defense of India, which ultimately impinges upon the sovereignty and integrity of India, is a matter of very deep and immediate concern, which requires emergency measures.
The ban comes against the backdrop of tensions along a disputed Himalayan border. Call of Duty mobile developer Activision also confirmed last week it had become the latest firm to part ways with Tencent. Activision said the decision related to U.S. President Donald Trump's orders, which restricted U.S. companies from conducting transactions with Tencent and its subsidiaries. So this is a bit of, heavy news, but I wanted to mention this because I was talking to someone about just like TikTok in India, and they were like, oh yeah, it's banned. And so it's like these conflicts between nations, this international diplomacy does affect games and gaming and apps.
It really does. And this is where you're like, I just want to escape. But there is a real world still going. Rising when the sun rises, settling when it sets, just still active. And so life, it's going to interfere at some point. And in this regard, I think it's understandable. I think It's one of those moments where, it makes sense. They feel that they need to protect, and this is what they're doing in order to protect. Can't really be upset by that.
Right. And
you can, but you shouldn't. It's an odd place to be if you're like, well, screw you, PUBG.
Right.
Maybe not them.
I think it also highlights how India is a bit slept on in regards to, the gaming community. This was PUBG's biggest market. It was responsible for a quarter of the game's downloads globally. When I was talking to my friend, they were saying like, oh, you should try to do like TikToks with Bollywood music in them because you're probably going to get a lot of likes because there are just a lot of people in India. And so we haven't really talked about India very much on this show in a lot of Western media and Western gaming news publications. Yeah. They don't mention it at all. You have to really go looking for like the Asia sections to see any gaming news about Asia, but I'm just surprised it's not brought to the forefront more.
What's cool is they're a highly supportive group of people. That is a nation where they're super supportive of individuals that are acknowledging to them in a way of a positive stance, and I think that's like a great energy that you're gonna now be missing out on in this regard because of the privacy concerns that they're like, no, you don't get to do this, potentially take people's information, and that's something that we can't allow here. So for content creators that I know personally that actually have a following, a large majority, it comes from there. And they're just all like really positive people who are very supportive, like I was saying. And it's cool to see that. And this is one of those moments too, where I'm just kind of like, yeah, this makes sense. This whole situation makes sense when you look at the potential threat that making people's privacy information presents.
I wonder if this is going to lead to a rise of, special Indian-only games or clones, or how that's going to be affected. I know there are a lot of TikTok clones that have kind of sprouted up after TikTok was banned, but it's too early to see, what is going to actually take place, what is going to be, the dominant move over there, or any company is going to try to move in to, establish themselves as the next big game. Who knows? And I'm, I'd really like to follow this story and see how it develops.
Yeah, same here. But I think we have enough time to get through this last story, which this one's really exciting because new Hyrule Warriors prequel to Zelda's Breath of the Wild has been announced.
Nintendo is releasing a new Legend of Zelda spin-off on Nintendo Switch this November, titled Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. The game is another Dynasty Warriors-style Zelda adventure developed by Koei Tecmo, and it serves as a prequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Let's take a look at the trailer.
The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages.
I think you are now ready. Ready to hear what happened 100 years ago.
I love these graphics.
I love it. I love the art style.
Is so good. Oh, she got a little Switch.
Oh, did she?
I think it was like a tablet or something.
Oh, the Sheikah Slate or something?
It kind of looked like a Switch. I was like...
Do you get to play as Zelda?
It looks like it. And I love these kind of just like Dynasty Warrior style games. Sometimes they're just fun to get into. Just epic battles. Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah. Good. So smart. This is an awesome choice. So this is set 100 years before the events of the Switch launch title, Age of Calamity Chronicles, the Great Calamity that devastated Hyrule. As in the previous Hyrule Warriors, the game will feature multiple playable characters, each with a different play style. Players will be able to take control of Link, Zelda, and the 4 champions of Hyrule, Mipha, Rivali, Daruk, and Urbosa, and use their unique skills to cut through hordes of Ganon's minions. Along with the aforementioned characters, a small guardian can be seen among the heroes in the game's official key art, suggesting that it could be playable as well.
In addition to over-the-top battles, Age of Calamity incorporates traditional Zelda elements like puzzles. Players will need to use the Sheikah Slate and other skills to overcome these and other environmental obstacles. Nintendo also says the game features a robust story that depicts the events, relationships, and dramatic moments of the Great Calamity in captivating detail.
According to Hayashi, who serves as Age of Calamity's producer, the game was created in close collaboration with Nintendo. Said this: unlike the previous Hyrule Warriors game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was developed by working closely with the Zelda team in every step of the process, including gameplay direction, graphics, world, and all dialogue.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is not the Breath of the Wild sequel that was announced back in June 2019. Development on that game is still progressing, series producer Eiji Aonuma confirmed in a video message, although he noted that fans will have to wait a bit longer for news about that.
Saying this, yes, we did mention in June 2019's Nintendo Direct presentation that had started development on the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Many people around the world are still playing Breath of the Wild. So I'd like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. Yes, that's you, Kaisa, and everyone else. Regarding the sequel, in order to make the vast world you enjoyed exploring in the original game even more impressive, the team is working hard on its development. So you're just going to have to wait a little bit long before we can provide more updates. Yes.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity launches exclusively for Nintendo Switch on November 20th. Pre-orders for the game are now live on the Nintendo Switch eShop and at other retailers. Those who pre-order the game digitally will also receive a free bonus weapon, the Lucky Ladle. Nintendo is also re-releasing Breath of the Wild Champions Amiibo alongside Age of Calamity on November 20th. It seems this November is going to be lit for gaming.
It really does, and lit to our bank accounts, because I want to say that I think his comment regarding we announced the sequel to the official Breath of the Wild, it's also probably delayed or along with this whole Switch Pro that we know is coming out.
Yes.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with that decision of why we haven't heard anything more. So this is enough to hopefully satiate the appetite of those who have completed Breath of the Wild, and ultimately we'll get what looks to be a very fun experience, because hack and slash games like this, as Kai was saying, it's just simple, but it also is extremely enjoyable.
That's a good point. I think the Breath of the Wild sequel is definitely going to be a console pusher. Gamer says, I sold a kidney, I'm ready for all the upgrades. Yes, you got to start, setting aside some pocket change now to get ready for November.
Seriously. Because, I mean, this is, again, one of those moments where you see Nintendo going, we know what we said, we know what we need to deliver on, we are going to deliver it. Hello over there in Portugal, Mena. Hello. I'm excited for this game. One of those titles, playing Warzone or Black Ops Cold War, Cyberpunk, where at a moment, if there is a loading screen, just like a quick... Let me just battle all these minions, go back to it. Whereas with like Zelda, you're like, let me travel all this landscape to get to this next destination.
Absolutely. It's definitely, a big contrast from what we've seen in a lot of Breath of the Wild, but, maintaining all the magic of all the characters and all, the different monsters that you can battle there. I am looking forward to this game. I think it's exciting.
Yes, I am super excited, but that does bring us to the end of the Daily Gaming News Hour. Thank you all so much for the wonderful comments, questions, everything that you added to the chat. The DGN family, we love and appreciate you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, we're going to be running reruns. We're also going to be posting VODs on YouTube, as well as certain clips and segments. And don't forget that Friday is a massive day for us, as we've got an interview with Micah Jones from Quantum Error.
Yes, that is the big interview surrounding the next-gen survival horror title, Quantum Error, where we will be having that conversation with Micah Jones. So if you do have any questions that you want to send in, use the mailbag to send those in, because we will ask them while we are going through that interview on Friday.
I was also going to say, since we are super interested in interviewing game developers and people who work in games, if anyone is watching who would like to reach out, or anyone watching knows someone who might like to be interviewed, please let us know. You can use the mailbag form if that's easiest to reach out to us, or you can reach out to either Marrone or I to set that up.
That is a very easy thing to do, because we are excited to bring on whomever wants to talk about their titles or whatever it is that they're developing, or however they are involved in the gaming industry. We believe in the overall health and quality of the gaming industry as a whole, because if everyone's benefiting and lifted up, it will obviously be a ripple effect that affects all of us.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for joining us today. For Daily Gaming News, I am Kaisa.
I am Marrone. We will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. See you next time, everybody.
See ya.